The opinions expressed in this show are the views of the host and not necessarily that of WTRW, 94.3 The Talker, or the Bold Gold Media Group.
The following presentation is paid for by Century 21 Jack Ruddy Real Estate, who is solely responsible for its content. Portions transcribed.
All Century 21 real estate offices are independently owned and operated.
Hello, I'm Jackie Ruddy, broker of Century 21 Jack Ruddy Real Estate. Welcome to the Real Estate Roundtable on 94.3 The Talker. I am here with my husband, co-host, fellow realtor, Pat Devaney.
Good morning, Jackie. How are you today?
Very good. How are you?
Very good.
We have, for the third week in a row, Gary and Matthew Lyons, owners of Disaster Blaster.
Good morning.
Thanks for being here with us. We're here every Saturday at 11 a.m., Sunday at 11:30 a.m., where we cover various real estate topics. We have a full-time real estate office with many extraordinary realtors who've been listing, selling, and appraising real estate for 50-plus years.
During the week, feel free to email us with any questions you have at questions@jruddy.com. That's questions@jruddy.com. Or you can give us a call at 570-344-6724. And when you go to jruddy.com, click on the webcam tab and take a look and see what's going on at Dunmore Corners.
View our listings, search the MLS listings, and listen to archive radio shows by going to mobile-friendly jruddy.com, jruddy.com, where all the popular podcast apps that we feature our radio show are also listed on. Remember to check us out on social media, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, Pinterest, and Instagram. Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Today, I'd like to talk about a couple different topics. Before we dive in, Disaster Blaster, who are you, what do you do, and where do you go?
So Disaster Blaster is a mitigation and restoration firm. So we do water damage mitigation, mold remediation, asbestos abatement, basement waterproofing, radon mitigation, fire and smoke cleanup. We can address a lot of different issues that homeowners might run into.
Infectious diseases.
Yep. We do infectious disease disinfection, including biohazard cleanup. We do meth lab remediation and fentanyl remediation. So we have a pretty full line of services, and we do service all of northeastern PA.
Okay. You know, we've had you on in the past. One of the topics we did cover in the past, we haven't done so in several years, is hoarding. And I think I'd like to revisit that because I'm seeing it's more and more common. It's happening more frequently. Back when we first introduced the topic, it wasn't so much out there as it is today. How about you? Have you seen this increase?
Yeah, it's certainly something that we run across more often as well. It's part of it. I wonder if it's people that are a little bit more aware, either family members or landlords, because we get brought in by both to get properties cleaned up and addressed for the current occupant.
We've had situations where we've had properties listed, multi-unit dwellings, where a tenant was there, and we would be trying to sell the property. Owner didn't live on site. But, I do my walkthroughs to get the house ready to list. I can't take pictures. And really, I don't say anything, but I do want to stop and say, where do you sleep? Like, beds are covered. Sofas are covered. There's not an inch of space available. I mean, it's a real problem. And for landlords, I'm sure, the lease doesn't cover that. Most leases don't. How do you take care of a situation like that?
In the case of landlords and tenant situations, depending on your insurance coverage on the landlord's policy, there may be coverage under their vandalism clause for cleanup. So it depends very much on how the policy is worded and the insurance carrier's interpretation of that. But that's something that a landlord should absolutely review with their insurance agent. As far as the cleanup itself, not only do we have to, get rid of and go through all of that content to determine what is being saved and what isn't, we also have to address any of the contamination issues.
There are health concerns.
There are serious health concerns.
Let's talk about that.
Sure.
What are some health hazards and situations you've come across?
Common ones are animal excrement that hasn't been cleaned up, that's been left, situations where food maybe has been left or garbage has been piled up inside the property.
Rodent and insect infestations.
That's very common. Things like fleas or bed bugs. All things that need to be addressed as part of the larger hoarding project, because you're not just getting rid of a lot of debris and trash and things, but you're also addressing odors, you're addressing infestation issues, you're disinfecting the area. So there's a lot that goes into it.
So you don't just go in and start throwing everything out. I mean,
We don't, no. So what we generally do is we work closely with the family to determine what is going to be saved and what isn't. And then we work to get rid of those items and clean what we can. And then from there, we're deodorizing and disinfecting and cleaning the property and addressing those issues as a larger whole.
So there's health hazards and then there's safety hazards, because generally in these types of situations, sometimes you don't even see pathways.
That is true. Yeah, there's definite safety hazards, both slip, trip, fall type situations for the occupant and anybody that's working in the area.
Yeah, and sometimes doors are barricaded, and if there's a front and back door, sometimes the whole front door or the back door, whichever door needs to be used, they use that door, but then they cover the other door with things.
Yeah, there's a major fire hazard anytime you have a situation like that, because if they can't get in and out of the property in the event of a fire, not only can they have an issue getting out safely, but because of the amount of debris and contents and things that have accumulated inside the property, a lot of that is very flammable, so fires can spread quickly.
Yes.
So it can be a lot of different potential issues there.
Yes, they call that hoarding. I was a fireman in New York City, and we would come across something like this. We used to call them Collier's Mansions, because there was a fire about 125 years ago in Manhattan, and it was a mansion, and it was filled from floor to ceiling with just junk. So anytime we come into a hoarding situation, we would just call it a Collier's Mansion. But to go into one of these in a fire situation, and now... Am I trying to go through a little alley with just stuff on the side and debris can fall on you? They're absolutely, it's a very, very dangerous situation. I mean, not only for the people living there, but for firefighters, because we've had situations where people live in these conditions and debris and contents would fall on them and they'd be trapped. Mm-hmm. And there's nobody around to hear. So the hoarding is very serious.
Well, you call it junk. To the hoarder, it's not junk. These are things that they're absolutely emotionally attached to.
Correct. Yeah. So, and that may not make sense to you or I. That's part of the process from our standpoint dealing with a hoarding situation, because we have to evaluate what legitimately is salvageable and worth keeping and what maybe isn't. So that's it's an emotional process, but at the end of the day, they're much better off as a result of it, because they have their homes back.
Right. Okay. So we were landlords, and we only have one building left, and it's a commercial occupancy. But we were landlords, and we never had to come across a situation where we had a tenant that was a hoarder. But I know that there's quite a few landlords out there these days that are challenged by this situation, because they can't just go in and start throwing things out. It's a delicate situation.
It absolutely is. Generally, in those sorts of situations, we hope that the tenant's family is in some way able to be contacted or involved. That does help the process move a lot better.
Smoother.
A lot smoother.
Okay. All right. Another thing that you guys do, meth labs, fentanyl cleanup.
Yeah, that's unfortunately something that's becoming more and more of an issue
increasing.
In our area.
It is.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing it in real estate. Again, when we've talked about this in the past with you, it wasn't so much an issue. Mm-hmm. We're seeing it more and more frequently these days.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. And there's really the question I get all the time is, where do you see that? Is it in the cities? Is it in the country? There's really no set standard or expectation. It's everywhere. We've done meth lab remediations that are out in the middle of the country, and we've done them in the middle of local towns up in this area. So it's not really something that you can really distinguish in that way. But what people don't realize is meth labs, when they're actually cooking meth, it's releasing a lot of different things into the air that leave residue on the ceilings and the walls and on
and it's toxic.
Very, very toxic. So you could move into a property that was previously a meth lab, and your exposure to these residues or to the VOCs that are off gassing from them is similar to if you were doing meth. So you can have a lot of really unexplained kind of reactions to things, whereas detailed remediation services would ultimately be able to address that.
So if you have a property that you're not living in, say it was tenant occupied and that situation occurred, if you go in and paint the unit and clean the carpet, usually after a tenant leaves, if that's your standard procedure, are you actually taking care of this, or are there certain types of cleaners that one has to use?
So we use specialty products that are specifically designed to address meth lab residues and in the case of fentanyl. You have to be a little bit cautious when you're cleaning things like this yourself, because you could easily expose yourself to it. That's even more of a concern when you have something as hazardous as fentanyl. And in addition, let's say you're shampooing the carpets or something, fentanyl can dissolve in water. So you now have made a fentanyl powder or a tablet much, much, much more dangerous just by cleaning the carpets.
Okay.
So there's different things like that people don't even realize. And if you didn't know that anything had occurred there, you would have no way of knowing that.
Right. So are there any telltale signs?
For meth lab, often there's a kind of a caustic odor. So you can kind of, any unexplained odor as a tenant or someone that's moving into a property, you should want to get to the bottom of. So, that's kind of a chemical type odor. And then any residues on things. It's more noticeable on windows and on glass, but you may notice.
Is there a film?
Yeah, there will be a film, and you'll see sometimes spotting and things on walls or ceilings.
Yeah, we were told to watch out for them. They said it kind of smelled like cat urine.
It's a similar, but kind of like a chemical-y
right.
cat
So
urine.
can you imagine going in there? Boy, it smells like cat urine. Do you have a cat? No, I don't have a cat, but I do enjoy some meth now and then. You know what I mean? They're not going to admit that. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I'm a recreational meth smoker,
Yep. We actually initially got into meth lab remediation following a fire damage that we had received from an insurance company to part of a claim. And there was an odor that wasn't really easily explained. And when an air quality tester came in and did some testing, they determined that it was high in all these chemicals that just happened to be common with meth labs. So that was years and years ago, but that's kind of how we initially got to this point.
Right. We were saying before that you never know where they are. There was one in Dunmore above a local restaurant. The guy was
Almost blew up
the place. I mean, so you never know. Never know.
And they were operating their business on the first floor, had no clue.
Mm-hmm.
Is there an odor when they're doing this? Like that, other than, the after odor, right? But while they're doing it, is there anything that people need to see or know?
There is, but if you're operating a unit underneath it, you probably wouldn't be quite as in tune with what might be going on above you. It would be something that would be more noticeable if you were entering the space.
Okay.
And then as far as fentanyl is concerned, anytime you see a white powder or anything of that nature, you have to be, at this point in time, unfortunately, you kind of have to assume the worst, until you know what these things
Is there any
are.
paraphernalia that could trigger you one to suspect? jugs, plastic jugs?
So for Meth Lab, there is. So if you see large beakers or soda bottles that are empty or have tubes going in and out of the caps, I mean, obviously, that seems a little bit like a weird thing to find, but it's absolutely in keeping with
Spot
Meth
on.
Labs.
That's
Yeah.
a possibility.
Yeah, I mean, if you see a large quantity of cold medicine or something of that nature, there's several different ways of making meth. So, there's different ingredients, but if you see a large quantity of chemicals and things, it's usually not. It's an indication of a potential issue. For fentanyl, less so because generally that's purchased. But you'll see tablets or powders or something like that.
Okay, but they absolutely need someone like Disaster Blaster to come in and do the cleanup.
Yeah. So we would come in and we would and first and foremost, we would address any of the content needs. A lot of content may not be able to be cleaned adequately because it's a pretty all-encompassing residue. So, I mean, if you have little nooks and crannies and things, it can be difficult to clean. Children's toys, of course, can't be cleaned at all. And then we would essentially disinfect the area, the ceiling, walls, floor, everything there and get it cleaned up.
So otherwise, airing the place out, painting, and cleaning the carpet is going to make the situation worse?
Yeah, so with the painting, you're also kind of covering up what we have to clean. So you're making the process a little bit harder for us as well. So, but anytime you run into something like that, obviously a meth lab remediation is very, very specialized. So you want to have somebody that's qualified to do that.
Okay. Disaster Blaster, Gary and Matthew Lyons. How does someone get in touch with you, please?
They can contact us at the office at 570-963-1123 or visit our website, www.disasterblaster.com.
Thank you. And you're all over social media. I'd like to say that.
We are, yes.
Okay. Pat?
Yes, we have a beautiful 4-bedroom, 2-bath, bi-level home at 2515 Collery Avenue in Scranton for $269,000. This lovely home sits on almost a half acre of land with 200 feet of road frontage and plenty of off-street parking and a built-in garage. This home has a good-sized modern kitchen that is open to the dining room and the living room. The home has been meticulously maintained and is move-in condition with ductless air conditioning. And if you're looking to install an in-ground pool or a detached garage, there's plenty of room to grow on this large piece of land. That's a 4-bedroom, 2-bath, bi-level home at 2515 Collery Avenue in Scranton for $269,000, and that is listed by Sam Shelter of our office.
Thank you, Pat. Painting your front door this color could add up to $6,500 to your house value.
Pepto-Bismol pink.
Say experts. Okay. No, that's not it. What did you say?
Yellow?
No, not it. I'll let you guys guess in a second. Now, we often say on this program that curb appeal is important, right? If you want to increase your home's value, painting the front door is one of the easiest ways to do so, okay? And there are so many colors to choose from. I think you probably, Matt, are going to probably guess this correctly. It can be hard to know where to begin choosing a color, right? So I'm going to just make it very simple. Experts, I don't know who these experts are, have suggested that a traditional shade usually associated with power,
I know what it is. Pick me.
is what can boost house values. You said Pepto-Bismol.
No, I was just kidding. I say
All right.
red. I say some shade of red.
You're still wrong.
Green?
The number
I'll go through them all.
one front door colors that buyers will pay more for is, putting you on the spot.
Blue?
You got the BL right. Black.
Black.
Yeah.
Black, okay.
And it adds even more value. And yeah, so it's a color that's associated with elegance, it's classic, it's mysterious, and it showcases a strong sense of style. I'm going to be driving around now. I'm going to only see black front doors, right? Look at Gary. I wish people could see your reaction. He doesn't really see this. And if you do not want to paint your door black, experts suggest slate blue. So you were right. Okay. And Pat, I think, said green. Did you say green, Pat?
I said everything.
Oh, olive green. So those are two backup colors if you don't care for black. Okay, Gary, maybe you can pick one of those.
Okay.
All right. First impressions count. And when you go to sell, buyers will make a decision in the first few seconds of seeing either your house picture or driving by about whether they want to go view your home. That's why a front door color is so important. It's time for a quick break. We'll be back in a few moments with more Real Estate Roundtable with Century 21 Jack Ready Real Estate at 94.3 FM The Talker. In your past real estate experiences, did you find most agents were mediocre? At Century 21 Jack Ready Real Estate, we defy mediocrity by being relentless. Don't settle for average. Contact the Relentless at Century 21 Jack Ready Real Estate. We have an excellent track record of serving the community for 50 plus years. Call 570-344-6724 or visit jruddy.com. That's jruddy.com. Thanks for tuning into the Real Estate Roundtable with Century 21 Jack Ready Real Estate. I'm Jackie Ruddy, broker, and with Pat Devaney, my husband, Phil Realtor.
And we're back.
With Gary and Matthew Lyons, owners of Disaster Blaster.
Thanks for having us.
Oh, thanks for being here 3 weeks in a row. Services that you provide. Just a quick list, please.
Sure. So Disaster Blaster is water mitigation, mold remediation, basement waterproofing, smoke and fire cleanup, asbestos abatement, radon mitigation, meth lab remediation, hoarding cleanup. I think that's close to all of them.
Okay. Very good. Now, out of all the services you provide, what are the ones that you do most often?
So the things we see most commonly are mold issues and asbestos building materials.
So mold issues and in the basement, usually?
Yeah,
areas?
so mold is usually basements, crawl spaces, and attics are most common.
And asbestos is a close second?
Yeah. Asbestos was used in a lot of different building materials. So, I mean, we can see floor tile, we can see pipe insulation, we can see a wall board. It's in a lot more things than people realize.
And the shingles on the house, right? They used to be some of them were made of asbestos.
Yep, and the siding.
The siding, right.
Yep.
We used to take that when I was working for a plumber. You'd take an asbestos shingle, and if you were going to be welding a pipe, you'd put that behind it because you knew it wouldn't catch fire.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they use it in a lot of things.
So one of the places that we often see it is in basements around the steam pipes, right? So that's still in houses today.
Yes. So one of the things people don't really realize is asbestos pipe wrap can be damaged by the humidity in the water. So it can absorb. So if you have a damp or a wet basement,
And many people do in Northeast PA.
Absolutely. So it can absorb some of that moisture. It gets heavier, and then over time it can break or fall. So.
Yeah, it could be. I remember we used to pull it off the pipes in the basement with my friends, and we'd beat each other with it. We'd come out of the basement, we'd be all white, and then we had a good old time. But it probably got, But we don't do that anymore because we've learned. But when did they stop? When did they stop using asbestos in homes?
1989 was really the phase out of asbestos. You can still purchase some asbestos materials today, but it's very, very uncommon.
I actually saw a furnace, a boiler, encased in asbestos. Have you ever come across that?
Yeah, so that's not terribly uncommon either. We also see oil tanks and things that are encased in asbestos as well. I'm not really sure what benefit that ever served, but it was one of those miracle products at the time, or so they viewed it. So they put it in everything. They mix it into plasters.
It's in our cars too, right?
Right, it's in the car brakes. They said in The Wizard of Oz, the snow scenes, they said they broke up asbestos and they sprinkled it on the.
Yep.
The,
so
they didn't know it was dangerous.
Yeah, they used to actually sell it in bags so that you could use it to decorate your Christmas tree.
Oh, nice.
Oven mitts used to be made of asbestos.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like you say, it's still used today. It's used in car brakes and things like that. So.
I mean, it's a great material for a lot of different things, but there's certain precautions you kind of have to make when you're using it. So thankfully, it's not a product that's used a lot anymore because in most cases, those precautions weren't really being followed.
Yeah, my dad got mesothelioma. He was exposed to it. He worked in a power plant that was built in the 1920s in Brooklyn. So he was sick from that too. So got to be careful.
Getting back to the steam line, so you see this white stuff on, people automatically think it's asbestos. And so there came out, after 1989 with things that look like asbestos, and it's hard to tell the difference, right? What do they call it? Is it plumber's dough or something? And they would wrap the pipes in it, but it looks like asbestos. So a lot of times you have to test it, right, to know for sure?
Yeah, so you can do asbestos testing for the pipe insulation. A lot of times asbestos pipe insulation still does have its own appearance. So whereas they came out with replacements that did do kind of the same job, you have aerosol insulation and things of that nature that kind of looks like a corrugated cardboard.
Right.
Yeah, that's generally going to be an asbestos product.
Oh.
So when you look at pipe insulation, you're going to see things that are maybe fiberglass insulation or something of that nature that's a replacement for asbestos, but a lot of the older material is still going to be asbestos.
Okay. So a lot of times people don't realize that the tiled floor, and they're a certain size, right?
Asbestos floor tile, if it's a 9-inch by 9-inch tile, it's almost definitely asbestos. Asbestos was also used in 12-inch by 12-inch tiles and in sheet vinyl products. So just because it's not 9 by 9 doesn't mean it's not. It does have certain things that you can kind of look at. It's generally a very rigid material compared to a VCT. But it was used in a lot of different flooring products.
And commonly found in basements?
Yeah,
kitchens.
Basements, kitchens, things like that are probably the areas we see it the most now. But it could have been used anywhere. It was used a lot in commercial spaces as well.
Sure. Now, how often, though, do people buy a house and so the top flooring material is carpet or vinyl or whatever, and underneath it is the asbestos?
That's
a home inspection's not going to find that.
Yeah, that's pretty common. That actually happened in my house. I had when I purchased my house, the kitchen was carpeted, which obviously I didn't want. And when the carpeting was pulled back, there was asbestos floor tile underneath that. So, it's kind of, it's much more common than you think.
And is cleanup costly to remove that?
Yeah, the abatement process is a little bit involved. We have to make sure that we're containing the area, that fibers aren't able to escape the work area itself, and that everything's being cleaned up and disposed of properly. A company that's doing asbestos abatement needs to be licensed with the state, and they have to be able to work with disposal companies and things that are able to actually dispose of asbestos materials, because not all of them can either.
So don't chisel it out, throw it in garbage bags, and put it at the curb.
I would not recommend that, or of course, fighting people with it.
All right. And then you have to do an air quality test after it's removed, right, to make sure that there's nothing left over, any residue, or?
Air quality tests are recommended in some cases. It depends on the needs of the project.
Disaster Blaster, Matthew and Gary Lyons. How does someone get in touch with you?
They can contact us at the office at 570-963-1123 or visit our website, www.disasterblaster.com.
Thanks, guys. Pat?
Yes, we have a lovely 3-bedroom, 2-bath home at 1227 Watson Street in Scranton for $174,000. This home is near St. Anne's in a beautiful neighborhood. It has a brand new kitchen from Mariotti Lumber with granite countertops, quality cabinets, and a subway tile backsplash. All new stainless steel appliances. This home also has new flooring throughout, and it's been freshly repainted in a soft neutral color. The third floor has a cute bedroom and an extra room with tongue and groove pine that can be used as an office, a playroom, or another bedroom. That's a great 3-bedroom, 2-bath home, and it's also got a detached 3-car garage at 1227 Watson Street in Scranton for $174,000. And that's listed by Kim Pizzanti of our office.
Happy and safe Halloween to all our trick-or-treaters out there. Remember to tune in next Saturday at 11 a.m., Sunday at 11:30 a.m. to listen to more of the Real Estate Roundtable with Century 21 Jack Ready Real Estate on 94.3 The Talker.